Pronouns Test number 1, question 1. Be careful with pronouns. Make sure they have a clear referent. Every pronoun must replace a noun. So here you're starting with roughly twice each century the planet Venus passes between the Earth and the Sun, an occasion known as a transit of Venus, during which it makes. What is it? What makes the outline of the planet visible? That it doesn't have a referent. You cannot use it. The same happens in C. Okay, so eliminate number 1 and number 3. Number 2 says during which the outline of the planet becomes visible, and that's perfect. By the way, during which is a modifier of the transit of Venus. So during the transit of Venus, the outline of the planet becomes visible. B is perfect. And then 4 and 5 use the idiom such that. Okay, so such that during which, that's worthy. You can eliminate such that. If you want to describe the transit of Venus, you need a modifier, not such that. And the same happens in E. Using such that is wrong. It's not idiomatic in this case. Okay? So just keep it simple. Number 2 is perfect. Remember that you can combine any preposition with which, of which, by which, to which, during which, etc. Keep B. Number 2. Notice the split at the beginning. It, they, okay? Was it? Okay, focus on the pronouns. Okay, so in the first one, it was not until the later half of the 19th century that Western designers, artists, and crafters were inspired to imitate them. And be careful with them. So remember the concept of the placeholder. You can have an it to replace a that clause, which is basically a that plus a subject plus a verb. Okay, so the placeholder it can replace a that clause. Usually somewhere after it you have a verb to be, such as was or were. Usually was or is, singular. Sorry. It was not until the later half of the 19th century that Western designers, artists, and crafters were inspired to imitate them. Okay, so what is them? What is them referring to? Is it clear? To imitate what? Yeah, I think the noun them is replacing is clear. It was not until the later half of the 19th century that Western designers, artists, and crafters were inspired to imitate them. Okay, let's leave this for now. We need to find what them refers to. In B you have they did not inspire imitations. Okay. Who are they? They did not inspire. Who did not inspire? Okay. Well, they're talking about the artifacts, right? The artifacts of pre-Columbian civilization. So you imitate the artifacts. The artifacts cannot inspire the imitations. That doesn't make any sense. In C you have not until the later half of the 19th century. Was it that? Okay, that's not right. Was it that they? That structure is wrong. Okay, it's ungrammatical. What is that it referring to? You see, this it doesn't have a reference. Also, using have inspired is present progressive, but I'm talking about the past, the later half of the 19th century. I need were inspired or something in the past, not have inspired. So C is wrong. 4 says until the later half of the 19th century, Western designers, artists, and crafters have. Again, have is present perfect. We saw that in the verbs lesson. That's wrong. They were not inspirations. Okay, no. We prefer to use, and this is very important, we prefer to use the verb were inspired rather than the noun inspirations. So they cannot be inspirations, okay? This doesn't make any sense. So, well, if you have any question, let us know. Number 3. Under Napoleon, the French were not able to organize an adequate supply system. Okay? And it was a major cause of the failure of their invasion of Russia. What is it? Remember that in the GMAT, a pronoun such as it, they, cannot replace an entire clause or a situation. They need to replace a noun, and that noun has to be stated. It has to be clearly stated somewhere in the sentence, either before or after the pronoun. Okay? That it doesn't have a referent. What is it? Nothing. So you can eliminate number 1. Then in B you have the French being. Okay, be careful with being, that's awkward. For the French under Napoleon to be unable to organize an adequate supply system was a major cause of the failure of their invasion of Russia. So my subject now is an infinitive, to be unable to organize. Okay, to be unable was a major cause of failure. Okay, let's leave this for a second. Then it's a bit awkward to use an infinitive as a subject. It's not wrong, but we prefer to use a noun. In D, for example, you have the inability of the French. The inability of the French under Napoleon to organize an adequate supply system was a major cause of the failure. And it's also more parallel, the inability with the failure. I like D better, eliminate C. And then the last one you have the French inability. No, that's wrong. Also, in the portion that is not underlined, we have the pronoun their, who are there. It needs to be something plural. So, well, the French, by the way, is plural. Okay? In the last one, there wouldn't have a referent because French is not a noun, okay? In the last one, French is an adjective that describes the inability. Okay, be careful. So, some people were asking me whether a pronoun can replace a noun inside a prepositional phrase, such as the French, and the answer is yes. This happens a lot in the GMAT, okay? So don't worry about that. Number 4 is the best choice. Question number 4. So before that time, the federal government, so the government was dependent on tariffs to be their main source of revenue. Okay, so be careful with the split between their and its. In 4 you don't have a pronoun. Their in the last one. So who are their or its? Well, I'm talking about the government, right? After this semicolon, you have before that time what? The government was. I cannot use their, so you can eliminate those because there is plural. In number 2 you have the government had depended on tariffs as its main source of revenue. So before that time they had depended. Let's leave B for now. Okay. 3. Tariffs were what? Okay, be careful with that structure. After a verb to be, okay, avoid using what. Okay. Tariffs were what the federal government was dependent on? No. It's also worthy. Okay, that structure is awkward and worthy. And number 4, the main source of revenue for the federal government was dependent on tariffs. Okay, so it's either B or D. So which one do you prefer? Let's analyze this a bit more carefully. After the semicolon, the subject is the government, and then the verb is had depended on tariffs as its main source of revenue, versus in number 4. You have the main source of revenue, that's a new subject, right? Now the subject is the source of revenue. And you have the verb was dependent. Okay, and there are a couple of things that I don't like about number 4. First, it changes the subject. Okay, it becomes a passive construction. And second, the verb was simple past. Okay, we want past perfect. Okay, had depended. Well, because this action occurred before another action in the past. So just keep the second one. Number 5. When rates were raised in 1985, Postal Service officials predicted, okay, after a verb such as predicted, okay, we prefer the subordinator that. Usually, okay? Okay, so let's take a look at other splits. They, it, the increase. Another issue is, we saw this in the reporting verbs, would versus will. And remember, if you have a reporting sentence, I cannot use will because will is future. I'm talking about the past, I need would. Okay, so they is replacing what? I'm talking about rates, right? Or the officials. Okay, they would make further rate increases unnecessary. They would mean that further rate increases would not be needed. Okay, this is worthy. B is worthy, eliminated. Number 3, predicted that it would not be necessary. What is it? It doesn't have a referent. So it's either A or D. Number 4 says, predicted that the increase would make further rate increases unnecessary. And the answer is number 4, because using they so close to officials could be interpreted as that the officials would make the increases unnecessary, when it should be the rates that increased, okay, or the increase in the rates. The increase in the rates would make the other increases unnecessary, not the officials. So we eliminate the first one. Also, we prefer that after predicted, okay? Number 6. Look at this possessive here, the organisms. After a possessive noun, we prefer to use a noun, not a verb ing. So, attempt to try is redundant because they are synonyms. To try means to attempt. Okay, so that was easy. It was number 5. Another split is that using an it at the end. Irritating it. What is it? Well, it should replace the organism, but be careful. Okay? A subject pronoun such as it, okay, or an object pronoun such as it, cannot replace a possessive noun. Okay? I'm not talking about the organism, I'm talking about the organism's attempt. So using it would be wrong as well. The last one is the best choice. Number 7. For this one, be careful with the ending, the split at the end. You have the split to do it versus to do so. Okay, so just remember that it needs to replace a singular noun. What is it? Well, it cannot replace anything here. You can eliminate 1, 2, and 3. Now the only difference between number 4 and 5 is whereby. Whereby subordinates Congress, so in D you don't have a sentence. So we keep E. Congress is required, period. We used to do so, okay? We used to do so to replace verbs or an action. And we use it to replace a singular noun. Keep that in mind. Number 8. Though being tiny, blind, and translucent, a recently discovered species. Okay. Though being, this whole thing is a modifier that needs to make sense with the subject, which is a species of catfish. Okay. You have their vulnerability with thickened bones and armor plates on their sides. Their is plural. Okay. And we need though or any contrast word because there is a contrast here. They are tiny, blind, and translucent. However, this species of catfish lessens their vulnerability. How? Well, they have thickened bones and armor plates. Okay, so they're protected. Now, you can remove the word being and nothing happens. You can just say, though tiny, blind, and translucent, and you're still describing the species of catfish. Now, species may look plural, but no, it is singular. I cannot use their. Okay? So I prefer to use its. Let's keep B for now. In C you have a recently discovered species of catfish has thickened bones and armor plates on its sides that lessen their. Okay, that's wrong. 4. Thickened bones and armor plates on their sides. There is wrong. Tiny, blind, and translucent is describing thickened bones and armor plates when it should describe the species of catfish. So the only possible choice is B. So it is a species, okay, and that's singular. Number 9. Okay, this one has the classic split between it versus they and being, and just remember it is singular, but I'm talking about iguanas. I cannot use it, and I need something plural to refer back to iguanas, so it's either C or D. Now the only difference is game animals versus a game animal. That's called noun agreement. Since iguanas is a plural word, I cannot say a animal or a game animal. That's singular. So we keep the third one. Eliminate number 4. Good. Question 10. Okay, here I need you to pay attention to the pronouns that are not underlined. Eats coat, eats those. And those are singular, okay? Be careful, they're singular. They're possessive pronouns. I cannot talk about slots because slots is plural. So eliminate the first 3. Eliminate 1, 2, and 3. They're gone. Focus on the last 2. Now, the last one is easy to eliminate because it's not parallel. The sloth hangs, sleeps, and it moves. It should be moves, just to keep the verbs parallel, right? Hangs, sleeps, and moves. So eliminate the last one. The only possible choice is number 4. By the way, sleeping and moving are parallel, and they do not have to be parallel to the verb hangs. Why? Well, because sleeping and moving are not verbs. They are modifiers that express an explanation or a consequence of the entire clause. So sleeping and moving describe how the sloth hangs from trees by its long rubber limbs. Okay, that's it. Number 11. Be careful. If you have the word and without a comma before, you cannot have a subject plus a verb. Why not? Well, because you need a comma and. You need subject plus verb, comma, and, or any other connector, subject plus verb. Any other coordinating connector, the fanboys, okay? That comma is very important. If it is not there, I cannot use A or B. I need a microbe never before seen on Earth that might escape and kill. Escape and kill. So, differences. It or them. Well, I'm talking about a microbe. And that's singular. So I cannot use them. I need the third one. It. Very simple. Question number 12. Okay, Napoleon's army, remember that's singular, okay, it's a collective noun, and you can tell that it had provisions, so it's not underlined, therefore it's definitely singular. I cannot use they, their, they, or their because they and their are plural, so we keep the last one. Simple. Number 13. Okay. This is a comparison. Comparisons need to be parallel. So the rate of addition will drop while what? Those is plural, but the rate of addition is singular. I cannot use those. So it's either it, the rate, or the worthy one. There are rises for the rate of loss, which is too worthy, eliminated. It's either B or D. Now be careful because the pronoun it replaces the same noun mentioned before, which is the rate of addition. I don't want that. I want either that or just repeat the rate again, because I want to compare the rate of addition to the rate of loss. So keep number 4.